Beneath the shifting sands of Giza, where the golden ratio of the pyramids meets the cold, indifferent stars, a memory older than human civilization pulses with a rhythmic, metallic heartbeat. To look upon Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is not merely to watch a film, it is to observe a tectonic shift in the landscape of global entertainment, where the boundaries between pure imagination and heavy industrial output cease to exist. We find ourselves at a crossroads where ancient mythology and hyper-technological reality collide, creating a friction that generates enough heat to power the dreams of a global audience and the bank accounts of a multinational conglomerate. This film, released in 2009, represents a unique inflection point in cinematic history, a moment where the sheer scale of the spectacle became the narrative itself, and where the machinery of Hollywood sought to mirror the mechanical gods it was depicting on screen. As we begin this deep dive, we must first acknowledge that this project was born into a world of profound uncertainty, navigating the treacherous waters of the 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike, a period of labor instability that threatened to halt the gears of the Paramount and DreamWorks machines. Yet, the studio leadership, driven by a philosophy of aggressive capital deployment, chose to push forward, relying on a pre-visualization strategy that prioritized visual engineering over a finalized script. This was an act of extreme corporate bravery, or perhaps calculated desperation, betting $210 million, approximate, on the ability of director Michael Bay to manufacture an experience that would transcend the limitations of language and narrative structure. The resulting film is a fusion of art, engineering, and capital, a 2.5-hour masterclass in kinetic capitalism that demands to be decoded with the same intensity with which it was created. In this opening stage of our examination, we frame the film as a high-stakes industrial experiment, a venture that utilized every available technological and financial tool to secure its place in the pantheon of the modern blockbuster. The story introduces us to a world where the quiet transition of Sam Witwicky into college life is interrupted by a forced system upgrade, an accidental download of ancient Cybertronian data into his biological hard drive. This data represents more than just memories, it is a repository of celestial R&D, containing the blueprints for a machine capable of harvesting suns and reshaping the energy economy of the universe. The Fallen, our central antagonist, is a figure of profound psychological complexity, representing the dark side of evolution and the dangers of absolute, extractive power. He is the ideological antithesis to Optimus Prime, setting the stage for a conflict that is as much about the moral architecture of leadership as it is about the physical destruction of cities. To achieve the necessary scale for this conflict, the production secured unprecedented access to military assets, turning the film set into a logistical mirror of a real-world theater of war. Every frame of this intro is designed to build a sense of pre-release velocity, ensuring that the audience understands they are witnessing a global event that has been engineered for maximum emotional and financial impact. We are seeing the birth of a new kind of cinema, one that values the data density of the frame as much as the dialogue of the characters, creating a sensory-rich environment that rewards those who pay attention to the details of the machinery. The technical ambition was spearheaded by a team of artists and engineers at Industrial Light and Magic, who faced the daunting task of rendering characters so complex they pushed the absolute limits of 2009-era computational resources. Every gear, every piston, and every spark was a calculated piece of intellectual property, designed to be scaled across a global merchandising ecosystem that extended into every corner of the consumer market. As we stand here, amidst the digital dust of Egypt and the industrial grime of Shanghai, we see the film as a bridge between the ancient past and the hyper-technological future. It is a reminder that even our most advanced tools are rooted in our oldest stories, and that the search for energy, identity, and survival remains the driving force of our collective human journey. This introduction serves as our conceptual foundation, the blueprint from which we will build our understanding of how Michael Bay and his team successfully managed the harmony of art, tech, and capital. We are not just watching robots fight, we are observing the intersection of global trade, advanced optics, and human psychology, all working together to create a product that redefined the meaning of the word spectacle. The investment required to bring this vision to life was not just financial, it was a commitment of thousands of hours of human labor, a dedication to a level of detail that borders on the obsessive. From the grain of the sand in the desert to the reflection of the sun in a Decepticon's optics, every element was engineered to provide a measurable ROI for the viewer's attention. In the steps that follow, we will perform a financial autopsy, a technical breakdown, and a psychological analysis of this mechanical epic, peeling back the layers of metal to reveal the heart of the machine. We will see how the studio managed the burn rate of its capital during production, how the marketing team utilized predictive analytics to target audiences, and how the sound designers created a sonic architecture that made the impossible feel undeniably real. This is the story of a film that was built like a starship, launched like a product, and remembered like a myth. It is a case study in how to navigate the complexities of modern filmmaking in a world that is increasingly defined by the speed of data and the scale of the frame. So, let us begin our journey into the heart of the Fallen's revenge, decoding the business and the beauty of a cinematic venture that changed the way we look at the stars and the steel that surrounds us. The narrative architecture of the first half functions with the precision of a high-frequency trading algorithm, efficiently setting up the stakeholder tension between Sam Witwicky's personal aspirations and his cosmic obligations. We find Sam at a pivotal juncture, attempting to archive his past as a world saver to pursue a new venture, a college education, which he views as a search for a normalized ROI on his life. However, the universe has other plans for his intellectual capital, as he accidentally initiates an unsolicited data transfer from a surviving sliver of the Allspark. This moment represents a forced system upgrade. Sam is no longer just a teenager, but a biological hard drive containing the R&D blueprint of the primes, making his mind the most valuable asset in the galaxy. Simultaneously, the film introduces us to Nest, a joint military Autobot task force that operates like a high-stakes global startup, a tactical merger between human resilience and extraterrestrial technology. Their mission in Shanghai is a masterclass in operational efficiency, where we see the Autobots and human soldiers working in a synchronized data loop to neutralize Decepticon sleeper cells. This opening sequence is not just about the spectacle, it is a demonstration of pitch-perfect pacing, designed to grab the audience's attention and establish the high stakes of this new world order. The introduction of the RC sisters and the massive demolisher showcases the film's commitment to scaling the spectacle, ensuring that the visual ROI is apparent from the very first frame. As the story progresses, the Decepticons execute a daring reclamation project that highlights their relentless pursuit of market dominance across the solar system. Soundwave, acting as a high-altitude intelligence hub, hacks into global satellite networks to locate the final shard of the Allspark and the remains of Megatron, mirroring the aggressive acquisition strategies of a rival corporation. The infiltration of the secure naval facility to resurrect Megatron is a sequence defined by narrative momentum and technical precision, using a tactical deep dive into the Laurentian abyss. The Decepticons do not just want their leader back, they want to initiate a hostile takeover of Earth's resources, guided by the ancient directives of the Fallen. Back in the academic sphere, Sam's struggle with the symbols in his head creates a psychological friction that is both humorous and tragic, illustrating the opportunity cost of his secret life. He is unable to participate in the normal economy of human interactions because his internal processor is overloaded with celestial data, causing him to hallucinate Cybertronian symbols during a lecture. This creates a fascinating parallel to a product prototype that is being tested in an environment it wasn't designed for, leading to a breakdown in his social-emotional infrastructure. Sam's interaction with Leo, his roommate and a conspiracy theorist, adds a layer of information warfare subtext, as they navigate a world where the truth is hidden behind layers of government redaction. The emotional investment peaks when the Decepticons successfully track Sam to his college campus, deploying Alice, a pretender Decepticon who is a study in deceptive design. She is a sleek, human-appearing infiltration unit meant to extract the data from Sam through psychological manipulation and physical threat, elevating the tension from global to intimate. When Optimus Prime arrives to intervene, the scale of the conflict explodes into the iconic forest fight, a narrative pivot point where the founding father of the Autobots protects his primary asset. This sequence is an incredible display of cinematic engineering, as Optimus takes on 3 Decepticons at once, defending the human boy who holds the key to their species' future. The death of Optimus Prime at the end of this battle creates a power vacuum and a sense of narrative bankruptcy that the characters must work to overcome in the following act. The protagonists are now operating in a state of high-risk uncertainty, forced to seek out new allies and hidden truths in the ruins of the past to restore their lost leader. The journey to find the Seeker Jetfire at the Smithsonian is a literal dive into industrial history, showing how the Transformers have been part of our world's technological evolution for decades. This blend of history, science, and high-stakes drama ensures that the audience remains deeply invested in the outcome of this colossal mechanical enterprise as they flee to the desert. We see the introduction of Simmons, an exiled government agent who represents the devalued assets of the previous administration, now brought back into the fold to provide historical context. The team realizes that the symbols in Sam's head are the map to the Tomb of the Primes and the Matrix of Leadership, the ultimate key to the survival of the Autobot race. This phase of the story mirrors the R&D stage of a corporate project, where hidden assets are identified and the core mission is redefined under extreme pressure. Every explosion and every frame of combat is a strategic allocation of narrative capital, ensuring that the journey toward the climax feels earned and significant. The first half concludes with the team landing in Egypt, prepared to risk everything for a high-yield emotional payoff that will determine the fate of the sun itself. It is a moment of total market volatility, where the future of the human race and the Transformers hangs in the balance, waiting for the final move in this cosmic game of chess. As we pivot into the second half of this cinematic enterprise, the narrative faces a moment of profound narrative bankruptcy following the loss of its central pillar, Optimus Prime, creating a vacuum of leadership that forces the remaining stakeholders to operate in a state of extreme tactical volatility. This vacuum is not merely a plot point, it is a calculated narrative risk that forces the audience to confront a world without its primary protector, thereby heightening the emotional stakes as Sam Witwicky transitions from a passive witness to an active entrepreneur of hope. The journey takes our protagonists to the ancient, sun-drenched landscapes of Jordan and Egypt, a strategic geographical rebranding that anchors the high-octane action in the cradle of human civilization to find a universal product-market fit for the global audience. In the shadows of the ruins of Petra, the team uncovers the Tomb of the Primes, a sequence that functions as a historical audit of the Transformers' long-term investment in Earth's history, revealing the hidden matrix of leadership. When Sam touches the matrix, it crumbles into dust, a moment of perceived total loss that tests the resilience of his character and his willingness to pursue an intangible goal in the face of physical failure. This turn of events mirrors a high-stakes R&D failure where the primary prototype is destroyed, forcing the founders to rely on faith and a deeper understanding of their core values to move forward with the mission. Undeterred, Sam gathers the dust, treating it as a devalued asset that still holds the potential for future appreciation, and begins a desperate sprint across the Giza Plateau to reach the fallen body of Optimus Prime. The arrival of the Decepticon forces at the pyramids initiates a massive market saturation of violence, as the Fallen prepares to activate the Star Harvester, a machine designed for the total extraction of solar energy at the cost of human extinction. This machine, hidden within the Great Pyramid of Giza, represents the ultimate expression of an extractive business model, where the survival of one species is predicated on the total consumption of another's primary resource. The scale of the battle that follows is a logistical marvel, featuring a multi-front conflict that utilizes the vast desert landscape to stage a demonstration of coordinated logistics between Nest and the Autobots. We witness the deployment of the Decepticon behemoth, Devastator, a mechanical nightmare composed of multiple construction vehicles that represents the terrifying power of destructive synergy as it begins to dismantle the pyramid's exterior. This sequence is a masterclass in kinetic data management, as the filmmakers balance dozens of digital assets and practical explosions to create a sense of overwhelming atmospheric pressure and high-frequency engagement. The human military forces, led by Lennox and Epps, demonstrate a high level of operational synergy, using advanced targeting systems and tactical maneuvers to hold back a superior force of Decepticon reinforcements. Amidst the chaos, the U.S. Navy deploys an experimental railgun, a piece of near-future technology that delivers a high-velocity market correction to Devastator, showcasing the power of human engineering when backed by strategic desperation. Sam's journey through the crossfire is a study in human persistence, as he navigates a landscape of twisted metal and high-explosive debris to deliver the Matrix dust to the heart of the Autobot leader. The moment of resurrection occurs as the Matrix reforms in Sam's hand, a symbolic recapitalization of hope that rewards his unwavering commitment to the mission's core philosophy. With the return of Optimus Prime, the narrative enters its final phase of payoff efficiency, as the newly revived leader integrates the parts of the self-sacrificing Jetfire to become a superpowered agent of change. This system upgrade is the definitive product release of the film, a high-performing mechanical asset designed to neutralize the fallen and restore balance to the celestial power dynamic through sheer overwhelming force. The ensuing aerial combat and ground assault are a breathtaking display of cinematic ROI, as Optimus dismantles the Star Harvester and defeats the Fallen in a sequence defined by its speed, precision, and emotional weight. Megatron, observing the total failure of his mentor's plan, is forced to execute a strategic retreat, preserving his remaining assets to fight another day and leaving the door open for future franchise expansion. The destruction of the sun-harvesting machine marks a successful reclamation of Earth's sovereignty, affirming the strength of the partnership between humanity and the Autobots as a sustainable model for mutual growth. As the dust settles over the Giza Plateau, the film concludes its narrative arc with a sense of resolved investment, having taken the audience on a journey from urban uncertainty to ancient triumph. The resolution is not just a victory of metal over metal, but a victory of shared values over extractive greed, illustrating the film's underlying message about the power of collaboration in a complex universe. The final shots of the Autobots standing atop an aircraft carrier against the setting sun serve as a powerful brand reaffirmation, signaling that the franchise is ready for its next phase of global distribution. We see Sam and Mikaela reunited, their personal relationship having survived the volatility of the conflict, representing the human capital that remains the heart of the entire mechanical enterprise. The film's second half thus delivers on every promise made in its early setup, converting its massive production costs into a high-yield emotional and visual experience for the global consumer. It is a testament to the power of the blockbuster as a tool for modern myth-making, using the most advanced technology of our era to tell a story of timeless significance and universal appeal. Through this deep dive into the plot's resolution, we gain a clearer understanding of how the filmmakers managed the flow of information and energy to create a truly epic conclusion. Every frame of the second half was a calculated move in a larger game of cinematic strategy, ensuring that the final product was as robust and impactful as possible. This concludes our examination of the narrative architecture, leaving us ready to explore the deeper psychological and financial layers that underpin this colossal industrial achievement. To truly decode the essence of this mechanical epic, we must analyze the characters not merely as participants in a war, but as sentient entities navigating a complex landscape of behavioral economics and high-pressure leadership psychology. Sam Witwicky serves as our primary case study in the opportunity cost of conscience, as he attempts to divest himself from a celestial conflict to pursue a standardized life of intellectual growth at college. His journey is a profound examination of how trauma and responsibility function as involuntary data acquisition, where his mind becomes a high-value asset that he never intended to leverage. Psychologically, Sam is a personification of the reluctant founder, an individual who holds the key to a massive R&D breakthrough but lacks the initial capital or desire to manage the resulting chaos. His struggle to maintain his human identity while his neural pathways are being overwritten by Cybertronian code represents a profound internal market volatility, where his sense of self is constantly devalued by the encroaching data. The hallucination of symbols during his astronomy lecture is not just a comedic beat, it is a visual manifestation of a system overload, showing the psychological friction that occurs when biological limitations meet infinite information. On the other side of the biological-mechanical divide, Optimus Prime represents the absolute pinnacle of leadership psychology, operating with an unwavering moral compass that functions like a rigid ethical algorithm. His decision-making is governed by a philosophy of total sacrifice, where he calculates that his individual existence is a secondary asset compared to the long-term survival and sovereignty of the human race. This represents an extreme form of altruistic ROI, as he leads not through coercion or extraction, but through a transparent commitment to the core values of freedom and autonomy for all sentient beings. The forest fight serves as a crucible for this leadership, where Optimus engages in a high-stakes tactical defense to preserve Sam, not just as a friend, but as a critical piece of intellectual property that ensures the future of two species. In contrast, the Decepticons, led by Megatron and guided by the Fallen, operate on a philosophy of zero-sum behavioral economics, where growth is only achieved through the total depletion of their competitors' resources. Megatron, following his resurrection from the Laurentian abyss, exhibits a desperate need for revalidation within the Decepticon hierarchy, acting as a fallen CEO seeking to reclaim market share through aggressive violence. His relationship with the Fallen reveals a dark hierarchy of command and control, where the senior stakeholder views the universe as a warehouse of raw materials to be extracted and consumed. The Fallen himself represents the archetype of the extractive antagonist, a character whose psychological drive for absolute power leads to a total disregard for the ethical implications or the long-term sustainability of his sun-harvesting machine. This machine is the ultimate expression of his business model, a one-time, total liquidation of Earth's primary energy source to fuel his own celestial ambition, showing a complete lack of regard for global stakeholder management. The character of Jetfire introduces the critical theme of obsolescence and the psychology of the defector, showing an entity that has chosen to reboot its moral operating system after eons of loyalty to a failing cause. As a legacy asset that has outlived its original programming, Jetfire's decision to sacrifice his remaining parts to upgrade Optimus Prime is a powerful act of repurposing. In economic terms, he realizes that his individual components have a much higher integrated value as part of a superior unit than they do as a standalone, failing system nearing its end-of-life cycle. Michaela Baines provides the essential stability of loyalty, serving as the emotional anchor for Sam as his world undergoes a radical and terrifying transformation. Her background in mechanical repair serves as a metaphor for her psychological resilience. She is the only character capable of fixing the broken data within Sam's mind, making her an indispensable partner in his journey. Leo Spitz offers a grounded perspective on the consumer of information, representing how a normal human mind responds to the overwhelming market volatility of an alien invasion. His transition from a conspiracy theorist, a speculator in hidden truths, to an active participant in the production of reality shows a rapid evolution of character driven by high-pressure environmental stimuli. Agent Simmons, formerly of Sector 7, represents the devalued assets of a past administration who must be brought back into the fold to provide the historical context and institutional knowledge required for the mission's success. His psychological journey from a marginalized exile to a key tactical contributor highlights the importance of preserving legacy data and specialized expertise in times of crisis. The military leaders, Lennox and Epps, operate within a strict hierarchy of command and control, where the ROI of a mission is measured in lives protected and tactical objectives secured. Their willingness to trust and collaborate with the Autobots, despite the political risk mitigation strategies of bureaucrats like Galloway, is a study in trust-based leadership and strategic partnership. Galloway himself represents the bureaucratic impediment, a character who prioritizes short-term safety and political capital over the long-term existential threats facing the planet. By analyzing these characters through the lens of psychology and economics, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complex human and mechanical dynamics that drive the story toward its explosive conclusion. We see that the war is not just fought with missiles and lasers, but with decisions, moral risks, and the constant evaluation of the opportunity cost of being a hero. Every interaction between these characters is a transaction of values, a negotiation of purpose, and a step toward a final resolution that requires a total harmony of effort and intent. This psychological autopsy reveals that the true strength of the film lies in its ability to make the impossible scale of its conflict feel personal, grounded, and intensely meaningful. We understand that the machines are more than just steel. They are reflections of our own desires for power, survival, and a place in a universe that is often indifferent to our existence. This concludes our examination of the internal architecture of the characters, leaving us prepared to dive into the massive financial and technical engines that brought this vision to the global stage. When we begin the financial autopsy of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, we are looking at one of the most significant and aggressive capital deployments in the history of modern cinematic enterprise. Released in the summer of 2009, the film carried a production budget estimated at a staggering $210 million, approximate, a figure that represents a massive experiment in kinetic emotion and industrial-scale manufacturing. To understand this budget, we must view it not as a simple expenditure on actors and sets, but as a strategic investment in a global production pipeline that employed thousands of specialized technicians, digital engineers, and logistics experts. Paramount Pictures and DreamWorks were effectively betting the stability of their summer fiscal quarter on the ability of Michael Bay to convert raw metal, high-speed data, and high-explosive fuel into a product with universal, cross-cultural appeal. This $210 million outlay was the research and development cost for a global event that needed to perform at an elite level to justify its existence to institutional investors and shareholders alike. The financial architecture of the film was built to withstand the volatility of the 2009 economic landscape, serving as a high-yield asset during a period of global recovery when consumers were seeking high-value, high-impact entertainment. We must analyze the burn rate of this capital throughout the production, where millions of dollars were allocated daily to maintain a workforce that spanned continents, from the sound stages of Los Angeles to the desert sands of Jordan and Egypt. The marketing strategy for this sequel was equally ambitious, functioning as a global blitz that utilized a masterclass in brand saturation to ensure that the Transformers name was synonymous with summer excitement. The marketing budget, often estimated to be nearly half the cost of production itself, was deployed to ensure a break-even multiplier that would move the project from a risky venture to a profitable cornerstone of the studio's portfolio. This was a classic high RPM marketing strategy, designed to build such intense, pre-release velocity through trailers, posters, and digital campaigns that the film would be immune to any potential critical headwinds. The marketing team utilized trailer testing and high-fidelity demographic analytics to ensure that every visual hook resonated with both the nostalgia of original fans and the technological wonder of a new generation. By the time the first ticket was sold, the film had already achieved a state of total market dominance through strategic partnerships with global giants like General Motors, Burger King, and LG. These CO branding initiatives allowed the film to tap into the marketing reach of multi-billion-dollar corporations, effectively multiplying its overall footprint without increasing the direct capital outlay of the studio. Every Bumblebee-themed Camaro on a showroom floor or a Megatron-themed toy in a fast food meal was a high-frequency advertisement that kept the film's narrative momentum alive in the minds of consumers worldwide. When we look at the EBITDA-style margins and the final box office tally, the numbers are nothing short of breathtaking for a 2009 release. The film opened to a massive $108.9 million in its first weekend in the United States, eventually grossing approximately $402.10 million, approximate, domestically. However, the true strength of the Transformers brand was revealed in the international markets, where it captured an additional $434.4 million, bringing its total global gross to approximately $836.50 million, approximate. This represented a return on investment that far exceeded the industry standard, proving that the initial $210 million investment was a stroke of strategic financial brilliance by the studio executives. The film was not just a movie, it was a high-performing financial instrument that yielded a significant dividend during a period where other sectors of the economy were struggling to find stability. Beyond the primary theatrical revenue, the film generated massive tertiary income through its extensive merchandising footprint, which functioned as a self-sustaining ecosystem of consumer products. The partnership with Hasbro created a feedback loop where the movie served as a 2-hour commercial for an incredibly successful toy line, and the toys served as constant reminders of the film's cinematic spectacle. This merchandise synergy is a key component of the film's long-term valuation, as it extends the life of the asset far beyond its initial run in theaters, creating a legacy of recurring revenue. Additionally, the film's performance on home video and early streaming platforms added hundreds of millions of dollars to the bottom line, showcasing the power of a multi-channel distribution strategy. Every DVD sold and every digital rental was a microtransaction that contributed to the film's status as a fundamental asset in Paramount's long-term financial portfolio. We must also consider the brand integrations that were woven into the very fabric of the film, particularly the collaboration with General Motors. The choice of vehicles, such as the Chevrolet Camaro for Bumblebee and the Corvette Stingray for Sideswipe, was a calculated move to showcase high-performance prototypes as heroic characters. This was not mere product placement, it was a CO branding effort that allowed GM to revitalize its brand image during a difficult period for the automotive industry, while the film received massive logistical support. This intersection of Hollywood glamour and industrial engineering is a prime example of how modern blockbusters function as collaborative platforms for multiple corporate stakeholders seeking attention and capital. The distribution ROI was further enhanced by a strategic release calendar that maximized the film's visibility during the peak summer weeks, ensuring it faced minimal competition from other major releases. The film's marketing team utilized sentiment analysis to monitor online discussions, allowing them to pivot their digital messaging in real time to capitalize on emerging viral trends and fan excitement. This agility in the digital space allowed the studio to maintain a high level of audience engagement throughout the film's theatrical lifecycle, maximizing the lifetime value of each individual viewer. The financial legacy of Revenge of the Fallen is a testament to the power of scaling a franchise through strategic investment, aggressive marketing, and a deep understanding of global consumer behavior. It demonstrated that a film could survive a difficult production period and still emerge as a dominant market force through sheer technical scale and brand recognition. The ROI was not just measured in dollars, but in the solidification of a cinematic universe that would continue to generate billions in revenue across sequels, spin-offs, and theme park attractions. It remains a case study in how to manage a high-risk, high-reward creative enterprise in a way that maximizes both emotional impact and economic gain for all stakeholders involved. This $210 million experiment in nuclear emotion proved that when art, capital, and engineering align, the results can be truly legendary in both the creative and financial annals of history. As we reflect on these numbers, we see that the film's success was not an accident, but the result of a meticulously engineered plan to dominate the global entertainment market through every available channel. Every frame was a calculated move in a larger game of economic strategy, ensuring that the Transformers remained a premier brand in the minds of the global audience. We see the film as a bridge between the traditional studio model and the data-driven franchises of the future, a harbinger of the blockbuster economy that would define the next decade of filmmaking. The massive capital deployment was justified by the massive cultural footprint, creating a harmony of art, tech, and capital that remains a benchmark for industry success. To step behind the curtain of Revenge of the Fallen is to enter a laboratory of high-octane innovation, where the line between cinematic hardware and military-grade engineering becomes blurred. The technical ambition of this production was not merely to create a sequel, but to push the absolute limits of what was computationally and physically possible in the year 2009. At the center of this technical storm was Michael Bay's relentless pursuit of visual density, a philosophy that treated every frame as a valuable piece of data-rich real estate. This was a film that demanded the most sophisticated tools of the trade, utilizing a hybrid workflow that combined traditional celluloid warmth with the cutting-edge precision of digital rendering. The result was a visual tapestry that felt both hyperreal and undeniably massive, a testament to the power of advanced filmmaking architecture to translate raw imagination into a measurable, high-definition reality for a global audience. The foundation of this visual experience was laid through the strategic and costly use of IMAX 65mm technology. At the time, shooting a narrative feature on IMAX was a rare and risky endeavor, reserved only for the most ambitious sequences of the summer season. For this film, Bay utilized these massive cameras to capture the sheer scale of the forest fight and the climactic battle in Egypt, providing a level of detail and dynamic range that standard 35mm film simply could not replicate. The IMAX sensors, with their expansive surface area, allowed for a level of immersion that made the audience feel like they were standing in the shadow of giants. These cameras, alongside the Aeroflex 235 and Panavision Panaflex Platinum, provided the production with a versatile toolkit for capturing high-speed action across rough terrain. The hardware choice was not just about resolution, it was about the psychology of perspective, using the physics of light and glass to ground the impossible mechanical beings in a tangible, earthbound environment. To manage the sheer weight and complexity of these cameras on location, the crew had to invent and modify specialized rigs and camera mounts. Shooting in the desert sand of Egypt with a camera that weighs as much as a small engine required a level of logistical precision that mirrored a military operation. Every take with the IMAX camera represented a significant financial investment, as the film stock itself was notoriously expensive and the reload times were long, putting constant pressure on the timeline. Yet, the studio leadership understood that the visual ROI of these sequences would be the primary driver of the film's marketing campaign. The clarity of the image allowed for a more seamless integration of the digital transformers, as the higher resolution provided more tracking data for the visual effects artists to anchor their digital assets to the live-action world. The optics used to capture this spectacle were equally specialized, with a heavy reliance on Angenia's Optimo zoom lenses. These lenses are renowned in the industry for their ability to maintain sharpness and contrast across a wide range of focal lengths, which was essential for Bay's kinetic and fast-paced shooting style. By using these high-performance optics, the cinematography team could transition from wide, sweeping shots of the Egyptian desert to tight, emotional close-ups of the human characters without losing the visual consistency of the scene. This lens physics was critical in creating a sense of cinematic glue that held the live-action footage and the digital characters together. The glass through which we viewed this war was meticulously chosen to ensure that the light hitting the sensor carried the maximum amount of emotional and technical data, making every explosion and every mechanical shift feel like a physical event occurring in real time. When we look at the CGI and digital character design, we must acknowledge the wizards at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, who faced an unprecedented computational challenge with this sequel. The character of Devastator, a colossal machine formed by the combination of multiple construction vehicles, was a marvel of data workflow. Composed of over 50,000 individual moving parts, Devastator was so complex that a single frame of his movement could take up to 72 hours to render on ILM's massive server farms. This represents a staggering allocation of computing power, turning the post-production phase into a high-tech manufacturing process. The artists at ILM didn't just animate these robots, they engineered them, ensuring that every gear, piston, and wire moved with a sense of physical weight and mechanical logic. This commitment to technical integrity ensured that the digital assets had a level of greebly and detail that rewarded repeated viewings, making the mechanical world feel lived in and authentic. The rendering process for a film of this scale is a massive consumer of energy and time, requiring the studio to manage a digital inventory of assets that was growing by the terabyte every day. To keep up with the demands of the release schedule, ILM had to optimize their rendering algorithms, finding ways to simulate the way light bounces off metallic surfaces without overloading their systems. This visual economics meant that every shot had to be triaged based on its importance to the story and the spectacle. The complexity of the Transformers' movements, with hundreds of shifting plates during a single transformation sequence, required a new level of rigging and simulation technology. These digital puppets had to be capable of interacting with the physical environments, kicking up dust, shattering concrete, and casting realistic shadows, to maintain the illusion of reality. However, the film's technical brilliance was not confined to the digital realm. It was anchored by a commitment to practical effects that defined the Bayhem aesthetic. The production utilized thousands of gallons of gasoline and hundreds of pounds of explosives to create real-world pyrotechnics that interacted with the actual environments in New Mexico and Egypt. By detonating these charges in close proximity to the actors and vehicles, the filmmakers captured a level of physical chaos that digital effects struggle to replicate. The interactions between real smoke, real fire, and real dust provided the digital artists at ILM with a physical reference that guided their work, ensuring that the CGI smoke and debris blended seamlessly with the live-action elements. This integration of the tangible and the virtual is a hallmark of high-end production technology, where the goal is to trick the eye into believing that the impossible is happening right in front of the camera. The coordination between the practical effects team and the stunt coordinators was a masterclass in risk management. Every explosion had to be timed to the millisecond to ensure the safety of the cast while maximizing the visual impact for the camera. The use of big boom pyrotechnics allowed Michael Bay to capture the raw energy of a battlefield, providing a sensory experience that felt visceral and dangerous. This commitment to doing it for real, whenever possible, is what gives the Transformers franchise its distinctive look. It is a philosophy that values the unpredictability of a real explosion over the sterile perfection of a digital one, creating a visual texture that is gritty, hot, and undeniably cinematic. This practical ROI is evident in every frame of the final battle, where the screen is filled with the debris of a truly colossal conflict. The management of this massive influx of data required a sophisticated post-production pipeline. The film was edited using Avid Media Composer, a tool that allowed the editors to organize and manipulate thousands of hours of footage into a cohesive and high-energy narrative. The data workflow was a logistical marathon, involving the constant transfer of massive files between the set, the edit suite, and the VFX houses. For the color science of the film, the production utilized DaVinci Resolve to create a high-contrast, vibrant look that maximized the visual impact of the action. The color grading was not just an aesthetic choice, it was a way to manage the audience's attention, using color and light to highlight key elements within the frame. This visual engineering ensured that despite the complexity of the imagery, the audience never lost sight of the emotional heart of the story. The color palette of the film, often described as teal and orange, was a deliberate choice to maximize the contrast between the human skin tones and the metallic, industrial environments. This chromatic strategy is a common technique in high-budget blockbusters, but Bay and his colorists pushed it to the extreme to create a look that was hyper-saturated and larger than life. Every frame was balanced to ensure that the highlights were bright and the shadows were deep, providing a sense of depth and dimensionality that made the Transformers pop off the screen. This attention to detail in the final grade is what gives the film its polished, high-value appearance, signaling to the audience that they are watching a premium piece of entertainment. We must also consider the role of PRE visualization in the technical workflow of the film. Because the production was fast-tracked during a writer's strike, much of the action was designed and engineered using digital animatics, before the script was even finished. This allowed Michael Bay to plan his complex camera movements and explosion cues with mathematical precision. These digital blueprints served as the master plan for the entire production, ensuring that every department, from stunts to cinematography, was aligned on the vision for each sequence. This previs strategy represents a shift in filmmaking where the engineering of the spectacle begins long before the first day of principal photography, allowing the studio to manage the technical risk of such a complex project. The legacy of the technology used in Revenge of the Fallen continues to influence the industry today. The innovations in character rigging, fluid simulations for dust and smoke, and the integration of IMAX footage paved the way for the next generation of blockbusters. The film proved that with enough computational power and creative vision, the most fantastic concepts could be rendered with a level of realism that was previously unthinkable. It demonstrated that the blockbuster is not just a form of storytelling, but a showcase for human ingenuity and technological progress. By investing in the most advanced tools available, the filmmakers were able to create a product that was both a financial success and a technical milestone, a harmony of art, tech, and capital that remains a benchmark for the industry. In the end, the filmmaking technology of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen was an investment in immersion. Every piece of hardware, from the IMAX cameras to the rendering clusters at ILM, was a tool used to bridge the gap between human imagination and the laws of physics. The film proved that with enough capital and technical expertise, cinema could evolve into a form of virtual engineering, where the limits of the story are only defined by the limits of the hardware. By name-dropping the tech, the ARRI Alexa precursors, the Panaflex sensors, the Avid suites, we see the film not just as a story, but as a monument to human innovation and the relentless pursuit of the impossible. It is a reminder that in the world of modern blockbusters, the technology is just as much a character as the heroes on screen, providing the backbone for a cinematic experience that remains a benchmark for technical scale and visual power. Managing a production of the magnitude of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is akin to governing a small, high-tech nation under a state of perpetual urgency, requiring a level of production management that borders on the miraculous. In this 7th chapter of our masterclass, we examine the invisible framework of studio governance and the industrial economics that allowed such a massive enterprise to function within the rigid constraints of a global release schedule. For this project, the leadership hierarchy, spearheaded by the relentless Michael Bay and supported by the executive oversight of Steven Spielberg, operated with a corporate-style project management philosophy where time was the most valuable form of capital. With a production budget of over $200 million and a predetermined release date that could not be moved without incurring catastrophic financial penalties, there was zero margin for error in the scheduling or allocation of resources across the board. The production was a sprawling global operation, with specialized units moving simultaneously across the soundstages of Los Angeles, the urban landscapes of Pennsylvania, the rugged terrain of New Mexico, and the ancient, scorching deserts of Jordan and Egypt. To manage this multi-front campaign, the studio utilized a synchronized data workflow that allowed producers to track expenses, labor hours, and equipment logistics in real time, ensuring that the manufacture of spectacle remained on track and within the parameters of the studio's financial forecast. This was an era where the concept of the global blockbuster was reaching its zenith, and the management of Revenge of the Fallen served as the blueprint for how to scale a franchise under the most intense pressure imaginable. A critical component of this management strategy, and perhaps its most impressive feat, was the unprecedented logistical synergy between the film production and the United States Department of Defense. This was not a casual partnership or a simple matter of renting equipment. It was a high-level strategic alliance that gave Michael Bay access to military assets that are rarely seen on film, and even more rarely utilized with such kinetic intensity. Coordinating the movement of actual M1 Abrams tanks, F-16 fighter jets, and hundreds of active duty personnel required a military-grade scheduling system that integrated with the film's daily call sheets. The studio had to act as a diplomatic liaison, balancing the artistic needs of the film with the operational security and training schedules of the armed forces, effectively turning the movie set into a temporary theater of operations. In the harsh economics of filmmaking, this access represents a massive cost-saving measure and a boost to production value that far exceeds the cost of building digital or practical replicas of such specialized hardware. It is a prime example of how studio governance can leverage external partnerships to maximize the visual ROI of every dollar spent, essentially crowdsourcing the scale of the film through institutional cooperation. However, the timeline control of the project was further complicated by the 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike, a period of extreme narrative uncertainty that would have crippled a less resilient production team. Studio economics dictated that the film could not be delayed, as the marketing and merchandising pipelines were already fully engaged and moving toward a summer 2009 release date. This forced the production management team to pivot to a pre-visualization-first strategy, a high-risk gamble where the action sequences and technical requirements were being engineered before a final script was even completed. Michael Bay and his team were essentially building the hardware of the movie, the explosions, the locations, the robotic designs, while the software, the dialogue and character beats, was still being coded in the midst of a labor dispute. This reverse engineering of a blockbuster is a testament to the director's clarity of vision and the studio's willingness to exhibit a level of risk tolerance that is rarely seen in modern corporate environments. They trusted that the technical infrastructure they were building at a cost of millions of dollars per week would eventually be filled with a coherent story that would resonate with the global audience. On-set logistics during the Middle Eastern shoot in Jordan and Egypt provided the ultimate test of workforce allocation and leadership under extreme environmental stress. Operating in temperatures that often soared above 100 degrees Fahrenheit meant that the production had to account for the health and safety of thousands of cast and crew members with surgical precision. Every gallon of water, every shaded area, and every piece of sensitive camera and digital equipment had to be managed with a focus on preventative maintenance and human endurance. The heat and dust were not just environmental factors, they were economic variables that increased the burn rate of the budget, requiring constant adjustments to the shooting schedule to maintain productivity. This is where the film's management ROI became clear. By successfully navigating the logistical challenges of these iconic locations, the production captured a level of authenticity and scale that served as a powerful differentiator. The ability to manage such a complex global footprint, moving massive amounts of personnel and equipment through international customs and across rugged terrain, is what separates a world-class cinematic enterprise from a standard studio project. Beyond the physical production, we must also consider the role of studio governance in managing the massive post-production and visual effects pipeline. With thousands of VFX shots being produced by ILM and other vendors across the globe, the production management team acted as a central nervous system, ensuring that data was flowing efficiently and that quality standards were being met. They had to manage the resource contention between different departments, ensuring that the most complex shots were prioritized to avoid a bottleneck as the release date approached. This level of oversight ensures that the film is not just a creative achievement, but a stable financial asset that can be delivered to theaters on time, ready for global consumption and revenue generation. In the world of Transformers, time is not just money. It is the very fabric of the cinematic universe, and its management is the key to unlocking the harmony of art, tech, and capital. This phase of the production illustrates how the pressure of a global release date can force a radical evolution in traditional filmmaking workflows, leading to a more integrated and industrial approach to storytelling. The management of this film proved that a clear hierarchy, a commitment to logistical excellence, and a willingness to embrace technical risk can overcome even the most daunting external challenges. It remains a definitive study in how to lead a massive workforce toward a singular, spectacular goal, balancing the needs of the artists with the demands of the stakeholders. By the time the production wrapped, the studio had successfully manufactured a global event that was as much a triumph of management as it was a triumph of imagination. Every decision made by the producers and the director was a move in a larger game of economic strategy, ensuring that the Transformers remained a premier brand in the global marketplace. As we look back on this industrial achievement, we see a film that pushed the boundaries of what was possible, not just on screen, but behind the scenes, in the offices and boardrooms where cinema is truly born. The legacy of this production management is found in the efficiency and scale of every blockbuster that has followed in its wake, adopting its strategies for global logistics and military cooperation. It is a reminder that the heart of the machine is not just in the digital robots, but in the people and systems that bring them to life, managing the infinite complexity of the cinematic process. This concludes our examination of the production management and studio economics, leaving us ready to dive into the historical and scientific foundations of this mechanical masterclass. While the Transformers franchise is often perceived as a whirlwind of mechanical fantasy, Revenge of the Fallen anchors its larger-than-life spectacle in a surprising foundation of research integrity and real-world tactical logic. In this 8th chapter of our masterclass, we explore how the production did not simply rely on imagination, it engaged in a rigorous process of fact-grounding, to ensure that the intersection of alien technology and human history felt authentic to the global audience. This commitment to accuracy is a strategic investment in educational appeal, positioning the film as a bridge between high-concept science fiction and the tangible world of archaeology, modern physics, and military strategy. By consulting with historians, scientists, and military experts, the filmmakers created a narrative environment where the impossible feels like a logical extension of our known reality, a hallmark of a sophisticated cinematic enterprise. A primary pillar of this accuracy is the film's depiction of modern military doctrine and technology, made possible through the production's extensive collaboration with the U.S. Department of Defense. Every piece of equipment used by the NEST task force, from the individual soldier's kit to the deployment of unmanned aerial vehicles, was vetted to ensure it reflected the actual state of military technology in 2009. This level of military authenticity provides a sense of grounded stakes, allowing the audience to believe that a human military force could realistically coordinate with extraterrestrial allies in a global theater of war. One of the most striking examples of this is the inclusion of the U.S. Navy's experimental railgun technology, which serves as a critical tactical asset in the climax against Devastator. While the railgun appears as a futuristic weapon, the concept is based on actual kinetic energy weapon research conducted by the Office of Naval Research, which uses electromagnetic force to launch projectiles at hypersonic speeds. This choice to feature near-future tech rather than purely fictional weaponry enhances the film's credibility with tech-savvy viewers and appeals to those interested in the real-world application of physics in defense. Geographically and historically, the film's shift to the Middle East allowed for a deep dive into archaeological symbolism and ancient mysteries. The production's use of actual historical sites, such as the ancient city of Petra in Jordan and the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, was handled with a level of respect for historical authenticity that is rare for a summer blockbuster. The film suggests a secret history where these monuments were influenced by early Transformer visitations, a classic trope that resonates with the ancient astronaut theories often explored in documentary television. By filming on location and incorporating the real-world scale and texture of these ancient wonders, the production achieved a level of visual integrity that digital sets could never match. This appeal to history and architecture serves as a powerful, contextual anchor, making the cosmic war feel like a part of the long, recorded history of the human race. In terms of linguistic and data integrity, the film explores the idea of machine language as a form of ancient data storage, presented as a complex, structured system of glyphs. The symbols that flood Sam Witwicky's mind are not treated as random graphics, but as a celestial blueprint that follows a consistent internal logic, appealing to the human desire for pattern recognition. Furthermore, the film's depiction of astronomical events, such as the alignment of stars to reveal the location of the Tomb of the Primes, is presented with a level of scientific plausibility. While the sun-harvesting machine is a fantasy element, the underlying concept of harvesting solar energy on a massive scale is a staple of theoretical physics, providing an intellectual ROI for viewers. The commitment to accuracy also extends to the film's treatment of material science and mechanical engineering, particularly in how the robots interact with the physical laws of Earth. The way the Transformers move, the sound of their shifting plates, and the physical weight they carry in the world are all informed by a desire to respect the laws of physics. The animators at ILM studied the movements of actual heavy machinery and aircraft to ensure that the robots didn't just look like metal, but behaved like it. This mechanical realism is essential for audience immersion. If the robots didn't feel like they were made of tons of steel and titanium, the stakes of the combat would be diminished. By grounding the fantasy in the principles of engineering and physical mass, the film creates a believable world where sentient machines and fragile humans can inhabit the same space. The film also accurately reflects the bureaucratic and political tensions that often accompany high-stakes international military operations. The inclusion of a national security advisor who questions the ROI of the Autobot alliance mirrors real-world discussions about defense spending and strategic interests. This adds a layer of social accuracy to the film, showing that even in a world of giant robots, the complexities of human governance and diplomacy remain a significant factor. Ultimately, the historical and scientific accuracy of Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen is about building trust with the audience through detailed research. In a world of digital artifice, these real-world anchors provide the narrative friction necessary for a meaningful and lasting cinematic experience. They allow the film to function as both a thrilling escape and a catalyst for curiosity, encouraging viewers to explore the real history and science behind the spectacle. This synergy between high-concept fiction and hard-fact research is what gives the film its enduring value as a masterclass in visual storytelling and creative economics. It proves that even in a story about giant robots from space, the most compelling elements are the ones that remind us of the beauty, history, and scientific wonder of our own world. Every detail, from the tactical radio chatter to the geological textures of the desert, was a calculated choice to maximize the film's authenticity and educational potential. This concludes our exploration of the film's research integrity, leaving us ready to analyze the visual engineering and cinematography that brought this grounded fantasy to life. Through this lens, we see that the film is not just an entertainment product, but a sophisticated synthesis of history, science, and the art of the possible. The visual language of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is not merely a collection of cinematic shots, it is a profound exercise in visual engineering, managed with meticulous precision by cinematographer Ben Saracen. In this 9th chapter of our masterclass, we decode how the film translates the intangible energy of a cosmic war into measurable, high-definition data through the lens physics and optical systems of modern cinema. The goal of the cinematography was to bridge the gap between the colossal, digital scale of the Transformers and the fragile, ground-level perspective of the human protagonists, requiring a sophisticated understanding of dynamic range and composition geometry. This was an era where Michael Bay was refining his signature Bayhem aesthetic, a style defined by constant motion, high-contrast lighting, and a density of visual information that challenges the audience's sensory processing. To achieve this, the production utilized a diverse array of camera systems, including the legendary IMAX 65mm cameras, the Aeroflex 235 for high-speed maneuverability, and the Panavision Panaflex Platinum for standard narrative sequences. The choice of hardware was a strategic investment in visual fidelity, ensuring that every pixel captured on set contained enough data to allow for the seamless integration of Industrial Light and Magic's digital assets. One of the primary pillars of the film's visual strategy was the utilization of magic hour lighting, particularly during the extensive sequences filmed in the deserts of Jordan and Egypt. This lighting design leverages the warm, low-angle rays of a setting or rising sun to create a prestige glow that saturates the landscape in amber and gold tones while creating long, dramatic shadows. For a film centered on metallic beings, this choice was a masterstroke of reflective physics, as the golden light creates intense specular highlights on the robot's chrome and steel surfaces, making them appear tangible and grounded. The interaction between this natural light and the cool, mechanical colors of the Autobots creates a vibrant color harmony that signals a fusion of the ancient Earth and futuristic technology. From a technical standpoint, managing dynamic range in the harsh Egyptian sun is an immense challenge for any cinematographer, requiring the use of specialized filters and exposure calculations to prevent blown-out highlights. The cinematography team had to ensure that the detail in the dark shadows of the pyramids was preserved while simultaneously capturing the blinding brilliance of the desert sand, a true test of sensor latitude and film stock capability. The use of Angenia's Optimo zoom lenses allowed for a fluid and immersive perspective, frequently utilizing low-angle shots that make the mechanical titans appear as godlike figures towering over the human cast. This perspective psychology is designed to force the audience to look up at the screen, subconsciously reinforcing the theme of humanity's vulnerability in the face of celestial power and heavy engineering. The lens choices also played a critical role in spatial compression, using longer focal lengths to bring the background elements, like the Great Sphinx, closer to the foreground action, increasing the sense of scale. We must also analyze the film's controversial yet effective use of the teal and orange color palette, a chromatic strategy designed to maximize the visual pop of the characters against their environments. By pushing the skin tones and desert sands into the orange spectrum while grading the shadows and metallic surfaces into a deep teal, the filmmakers created a high-contrast look that is instantly recognizable. This color science is not just an aesthetic preference, it is a way to manage visual attention, ensuring that the audience's eye is immediately drawn to the most important elements within a complex and chaotic frame. The post-production process in the digital intermediate (DI) suite was where this visual data was finalized, using tools like DaVinci Resolve to fine-tune the saturation and contrast for a global theatrical release. Every frame was treated as a high-value asset, with colorists working to ensure that the transition between live-action plates and full CGI shots was completely imperceptible to the naked eye. To capture the kinetic energy of the battle sequences, the production utilized pursuit systems, high-speed camera cars equipped with stabilized cranes that can track the action at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour. This allowed for the creation of dynamic tracking shots that mimic the movement of the robots themselves, giving the audience a front-row seat to the high-velocity destruction of urban and desert environments. The use of these specialized rigs represents a significant technological ROI, providing a level of immersion that static cameras could never achieve, and turning the act of filming into an athletic and engineering feat. We must also consider the role of data capture on set, where cinematographers used silver and gray reference spheres to record the exact lighting conditions for every shot. This captured data allowed the digital artists at ILM to replicate the natural lighting on their digital models, ensuring that a robot standing in the desert cast a shadow that was mathematically consistent with the real-world sun. The cinematography also utilized leading lines and the rule of thirds even in the midst of its most chaotic moments, providing a hidden structure that prevents the film from becoming a mere blur of motion. This compositional integrity is what allows the audience to follow the flow of combat, understanding the tactical positioning of the Autobots relative to their Decepticon adversaries. The shutter speed and motion blur were also carefully managed to preserve the mechanical detail of the Transformers' transformations, ensuring that the shifting plates didn't become a stuttery mess on screen. By analyzing the film through the lens of visual engineering, we see that every shot was a calculated move in a larger game of sensory engagement and brand building. The optics of Revenge of the Fallen serve as the bridge between the human heart and the mechanical mind, translating a story of survival into a radiant, unforgettable cinematic event. This commitment to visual excellence is what allows the film to maintain its relevance years after its release, as its technical benchmarks for clarity and scale remain difficult for many modern productions to surpass. It is a reminder that in the world of high-stakes filmmaking, the camera is the ultimate tool for turning capital into culture and engineering into art. This concludes our deep dive into the cinematography and visual engineering of the film, leaving us ready to explore the sonic architecture that gives the mechanical giants their thunderous voice. We have seen how light and glass are used to manufacture awe, creating a visual masterclass that remains a defining moment in the history of the modern blockbuster. Through the synthesis of IMAX scale and magic hour beauty, Michael Bay and Ben Saracen created a visual legacy that continues to resonate with audiences across the globe. The sonic architecture of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is not merely an accompaniment to the visual chaos, it is a profound investment in atmospheric immersion, serving as the invisible bridge that connects the physical world of the viewer to the mechanical giants on the screen. To build this auditory universe, the production treated sound as a critical piece of industrial-scale data, meticulously managed to ensure that the audience could perceive the weight, the mass, and the sentient intent of every Cybertronian entity. In this 10th chapter of our masterclass, we decode the sonic ROI of a film that redefined the boundaries of sound design, utilizing a complex mixing architecture and a strategic musical scoring pipeline to manufacture a sensory experience of unparalleled scale. We begin with the foundation of the score, composed by the visionary Steve Jablonsky, whose work acts as the emotional backbone of the film, providing a soaring, orchestral counterpoint to the high-tech, percussive nature of the visuals. Jablonsky's approach was one of symphonic hybridization, blending traditional string arrangements and brass fanfares with aggressive electronic pulses, distorted synths, and synthetic textures to reflect the film's core theme, the meeting of ancient human spirit and futuristic mechanical power. This musical synergy was developed in collaboration with Linkin Park, whose track, New Divide, served as the film's lead anthem and a core thematic motif, representing a high RPM marketing partnership that bridged the gap between cinema and global rock culture. The collaboration with Linkin Park was a masterclass in brand alignment, as the band's electronic rock aesthetic perfectly mirrored the film's visual language, and the integration of their melodic themes into the orchestral score provided a cohesive audio signature for the entire project. Every note played by the orchestra was a calculated move to increase the film's cultural capital, making the experience feel prestigious and epic while maintaining a rhythmic velocity that kept pace with Michael Bay's kinetic editing style. From the brassy, heroic themes of Optimus Prime to the dissonant, industrial drones of the Fallen, the music functions as a psychological navigation system, telling the audience how to feel and where to focus their emotional energy amidst the visual complexity. Moving into the realm of sound design, we must acknowledge the wizards at Skywalker Sound, led by Eric Odell and Ethan van der Ryn, who faced the monumental task of creating unique mechanical voices for dozens of new characters. To make a robot like Optimus Prime or Bumblebee feel like a multi-ton heroic asset, the sound team utilized a process of acoustic prototyping, layering thousands of individual audio clips to create a sense of physical weight and mechanical logic. They recorded real-world industrial sounds, the whine of high-torque electric motors, the clank of massive hydraulic pistons, and the rhythmic grinding of heavy factory gears, to serve as the building blocks for the Transformers' movements. These sounds were then processed and pitch-shifted to create a sense of scale, ensuring that the footstep of a robot sounded like a geological event rather than a simple mechanical strike. The transformation sounds themselves are a study in frequency management, where the sound of shifting metal plates is woven together with electronic hums and mechanical clicks to create a sonic language that is unique to the Transformers brand. For the villainous Devastator, the sound design had to communicate a sense of destructive synergy. His auditory presence was constructed using recordings of rock crushers, building demolitions, and even the sounds of large-scale military hardware being dismantled. When Devastator activates his vortex grinder atop the Great Pyramid, the sound team utilized low-frequency sub-bass pulses and swirling wind effects to create a sense of overwhelming atmospheric pressure, making the audience feel the power of the sun harvesting machine. This use of spatial audio and dynamic range management ensured that the film's sound lived up to the scale of its IMAX visuals, placing the audience in the center of a 360-degree environment of kinetic destruction. We must also analyze the sound of the Fallen, whose voice was designed to sound ancient, dry, and terrifyingly cold, a reflection of his extractive psychology and his status as a celestial outcast. The sound of his teleportation and his use of gravity-defying powers utilized specialized digital processing to create a glitched reality effect, signaling to the audience that his technology operated on a different level than the standard Autobots. In the final mixing phase, the production utilized the full capabilities of Dolby Digital and IMAX sound systems, managing the sonic chaos to ensure that key dialogue and emotional cues were never lost in the roar of battle. This was an exercise in sonic curation, where the sound mixers had to decide which frequencies to prioritize in a frame containing hundreds of simultaneous audio events, ensuring that the narrative clarity remained intact. The sound of the Navy's experimental railgun, for instance, was designed to be a sonic punctuation mark, a sharp, high-velocity crack that cut through the low-end rumble of the battlefield to signify a decisive tactical shift. Foley artists also played a critical role, using sand, glass, and metal scraps to recreate the subtle textures of the Egyptian desert and the grit of the urban war zones, grounding the high-tech digital effects in a tangible, organic reality. Every sound in the film, from the subtle click of a robotic eye focusing to the thunderous roar of an F-22 Raptor, represents a calculated effort to maximize the sonic ROI of the cinematic experience. The investment in high-fidelity audio production is what allows the film to maintain its sense of awe. It is the layer of sensory data that convinces the brain that the impossible is actually occurring right in front of the viewer. As we look back on the sound design of Revenge of the Fallen, we see it as a benchmark for the industry, a film that pushed the boundaries of how we perceive mechanical life through our ears. It is a reminder that in the harmony of art, tech, and capital, the ears are just as important as the eyes in perceiving the true scale of human innovation and storytelling ambition. The legacy of this sound production continues to influence modern blockbusters, as its techniques for layering industrial and synthetic audio have become a standard part of the visual effects workflow. By name-dropping the tech, the Dolby Atmos precursors, the Skywalker mixing suites, the Neve consoles, we see the film as a monument to sonic engineering and the relentless pursuit of total immersion. This concludes our examination of the sonic architecture and musical scoring, leaving us ready to explore the marketing strategy and audience analytics that drove this auditory spectacle to the top of the global charts. The marketing campaign for Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen was not merely a promotional endeavor, it was a global saturation strategy designed to ensure that the Transformers' intellectual property achieved total market dominance during the high-stakes summer of 2009. In this 11th chapter of our masterclass, we dissect the sophisticated machinery of audience analytics and strategic brand deployment that turned a $210 million production into a billion-dollar cultural phenomenon through sheer CPM efficiency and psychological precision. Paramount Pictures and DreamWorks operated with the calculated mindset of a multinational conglomerate, utilizing advanced data analytics to guide their creative and financial adjustments both pre- and post-release, ensuring that the Transformers name was visible in every corner of the global marketplace. To understand this campaign is to study a masterclass in PR release velocity, where every dollar spent on a digital ad, a television spot, or a massive physical billboard was engineered to yield the maximum possible brand impression among a diverse set of demographic stakeholders. A cornerstone of this strategy was the rigorous use of trailer testing and psychological A/B testing, where the marketing team deployed various cuts of the footage to secret focus groups to measure emotional response and eye-tracking metrics. By analyzing which sequences, whether it was the mechanical intricacy of a transformation or the high-octane destruction of an urban environment, generated the highest anticipation ROI, the studio was able to refine its messaging for maximum impact. This data-driven approach allowed the filmmakers to identify the most potent visual hooks, leading to a marketing blitz that emphasized the film's unprecedented scale and its technological superiority over every other summer blockbuster of that era. The marketing team recognized that they were dealing with two distinct audience portfolios: the legacy fans who grew up with the 1980s animated series and the new generation of viewers who were drawn to the kinetic mayhem aesthetic of the 2007 original. To capture the share of mind across these groups, the campaign utilized a dual-track messaging strategy that blended deep-rooted nostalgia with hypermodern spectacle, ensuring that the brand remained relevant to both parents and children simultaneously. This demographic synergy was further amplified by high-stakes advertising buys during premier cultural events, most notably the Super Bowl, where the high RPM energy of a 30-second spot acted as a massive catalyst for global awareness. Beyond traditional media, the campaign leveraged massive CO branding initiatives with global industrial giants, most notably the strategic partnership with General Motors that saw the movie functioning as a high-visibility showroom for the automotive future. The choice to feature the 2010 Chevrolet Camaro as Bumblebee was not a simple product placement. It was a CO branding merger that allowed GM to revitalize its brand image during a period of industrial recovery, while the film received hundreds of millions of dollars in cross-promotional support. This intersection of Hollywood glamour and heavy engineering created a feedback loop where the cool factor of the Autobots was directly transferred to real-world consumer products, increasing the overall market valuation of both the film and its partners. We must also examine the film's merchandise footprint, where the partnership with Hasbro turned every toy aisle in the world into a secondary marketing channel that reinforced the film's narrative themes and visual language. This merchandise synergy is a critical component of the film's long-term ROI, as it ensured that the Transformers brand remained active in the consumer's daily life long after they had left the darkened environment of the cinema. Every action figure sold was a microtransaction that contributed to the film's status as a self-sustaining economic engine, fueled by a global audience's desire to own a piece of the mechanical magic they saw on screen. In the digital realm, although social media was in its relative infancy in 2009, the marketing team utilized early sentiment analysis to monitor online discussion forums and tech blogs to track the viral potential of leaked images and technical data. By strategically releasing behind-the-scenes content that highlighted the rendering complexity of characters like Devastator, the studio appealed to the prosumer demographic, viewers who value technical excellence and production transparency. This technical marketing created a sense of awe around the film's creation, positioning it as a benchmark for human ingenuity and a must-see event for anyone interested in the future of digital artistry and computational power. The global release strategy was a masterclass in saturation booking, where the film was deployed in thousands of theaters simultaneously across the world to capitalize on the peak summer weeks and minimize the impact of piracy. By ensuring a day-and-date release in major international markets, the studio was able to harness the power of global buzz and social proof, creating a sense of urgency that drove record-breaking opening weekend numbers in multiple territories. Analytics played a crucial role in the post-release phase as well, as the studio monitored real-time box office data to adjust their television spending and target underperforming regions with renewed promotional vigor. This agility allowed the marketing machine to pivot its messaging based on audience exit polls, highlighting the humor or the emotional stakes in different markets depending on what was resonating most strongly with local consumers. We should also consider the role of influencer marketing in 2009, which involved high-level collaborations with car enthusiasts, tech journalists, and professional toy collectors who provided a layer of authentic validation to the brand. These key opinion leaders acted as decentralized brand ambassadors, using their own high-frequency platforms to spread the gospel of the film's technical ambition and its contribution to the evolution of the action genre. The marketing campaign also navigated significant brand risks, such as the controversy surrounding certain character designs, by utilizing a lean-in strategy that focused on the sheer diversity and variety of the film's robotic cast. By emphasizing the variety of the Transformers, from the massive Devastator to the tiny, comedic Wheelie, the campaign ensured that there was a character or a vehicle that appealed to every individual consumer's taste. This consumer segmentation is what allowed the film to achieve such high levels of market penetration, turning a specific sci-fi niche into a broad, multi-generational entertainment phenomenon with enduring appeal. As we reflect on the marketing of Revenge of the Fallen, we see the blueprint for the modern franchise model, a system where art, capital, and engineering are promoted with the same level of sophistication as a high-tech product launch. The film proved that a well-managed brand could overcome critical skepticism through sheer mechanical scale and a deep, data-driven understanding of what the audience truly desired in a cinematic experience. Every poster, every TV spot, and every brand partnership was a calculated move in a larger game of economic strategy, ensuring that the Transformers remained a premier global asset for years to come. This concludes our deep dive into the marketing strategy and audience analytics, leaving us ready to explore the critical reception and the legacy forecast of this colossal industrial achievement. We have seen how data was used to manufacture excitement, turning a story of metal and oil into a radiant, global event that redefined the meaning of the word blockbuster. The synergy of art, tech, and capital was nowhere more visible than in the way the film was sold to the world, creating a harmony of message and medium that continues to influence the industry today. Through the lens of marketing, we see the film as a triumph of psychological engineering, a masterclass in how to capture the imagination and the capital of a global audience through analytical precision. As the dust settled over the global box office in late 2009, the critical reception for Revenge of the Fallen revealed a fascinating and profound disconnect between the industry's elite gateholders and the actual consumer market. In this 12th chapter of our masterclass, we examine the metrics of success through the lenses of both artistic critique and commercial valuation, analyzing how a film can achieve total market dominance despite a polarized reception. While the film faced a challenging path with professional critics, earning a 19% rating on the tomato meter, the audience analytics told a vastly different story of brand loyalty, with the film breaking records for the biggest Wednesday opening in history at $62 million. In the world of high-stakes cinema, this divergence represents a masterclass in market segmentation. Critics measured the film against traditional literary structures, while the global audience valued it as a high-performance visual asset designed for sensory immersion. This tension did not hinder the film's financial trajectory. Instead, it solidified its status as a resilient product that thrived on its sheer mechanical scale and the raw, kinetic energy of Michael Bay's industrial-grade spectacle. From an awards perspective, the film's legacy forecast was primarily anchored in its technical dominance, receiving an Academy Award nomination for Best Sound Mixing at the 82nd Oscars. This nomination served as professional validation of the film's production integrity, highlighting the immense level of skill required to manage a complex mixing architecture across such a massive, data-driven sonic landscape. Paradoxically, the film also became a major winner at the Golden Raspberry Awards, taking home Worst Picture and Worst Director, a duality that makes it a unique case study in the popcorn-to-prestige ratio. It was the first IMAX release to win a Worst Picture Razzie, yet it simultaneously became the highest-grossing film to ever receive that dubious honor, proving that critical insolvency does not equate to a lack of commercial liquidity. The film's brand perception underwent a significant shift post-release, transitioning from a simple summer sequel into a cornerstone of a perpetual franchise that would eventually spawn a billion-dollar cinematic universe. This is a classic example of syndication value, where a single successful release builds an intellectual property foundation that supports decades of future revenue across sequels, spin-offs, and theme park attractions. Looking at the long-term valuation, Revenge of the Fallen has seen consistent performance data across home media, with over 11 million units sold in its first year alone, making it the top-selling film of 2009 in the United States. For a film built on the cutting edge of 2009 innovation, the visual effects produced by ILM have aged with a surprising level of grace, often outperforming modern productions in terms of texture, physical weight, and mechanical complexity. Every time a new viewer discovers the forest fight in high definition on a streaming platform, the film's reputation as a masterclass in visual engineering is reaffirmed, ensuring it remains a durable asset in the Paramount portfolio. As we reach the 15-year anniversary of its release in 2024 and 2025, we see a nostalgia recapitalization occurring, with Hasbro releasing special anniversary Studio Series figure multipacks to celebrate the film's milestone. These high-end collectibles, featuring characters like the Jetfire-upgraded Optimus Prime, demonstrate the enduring collectability index of the film's robotic designs and their status as iconic cultural artifacts. The legacy of the film is also felt in the careers of its stakeholders. It solidified Michael Bay as the primary architect of the high RPM action genre and turned its leads into high-value creative assets within the global celebrity economy. Furthermore, the film's impact on the IMAX ecosystem cannot be understated, as its success encouraged theaters worldwide to invest in large-format screens to accommodate the demand for this specific brand of scale-driven entertainment. We see the film as a bridge between the traditional studio model and the data-driven universe model of the 2020s, a harbinger of the economic strategies that now dominate the global entertainment landscape. In summary, the legacy forecast for Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is one of resilience and relevance, proving that when art and capital are engineered with enough force, they can withstand any amount of critical friction. It remains a monument to the power of a massive industrial enterprise to capture the world's imagination, creating a product that continues to pay dividends in both cultural memory and corporate revenue. This concludes our examination of the film's critical reception and long-term valuation, leaving us ready to reflect on the final harmony of art, tech, and capital in our concluding chapter. As the dust settled over the global box office in late 2009, the critical reception for Revenge of the Fallen revealed a fascinating and profound disconnect between the industry's elite gateholders and the actual consumer market. In this 12th chapter of our masterclass, we examine the metrics of success through the lenses of both artistic critique and commercial valuation, analyzing how a film can achieve total market dominance despite a polarized reception. While the film faced a challenging path with professional critics, earning a 19% rating on the tomato meter, the audience analytics told a vastly different story of brand loyalty, with the film breaking records for the biggest Wednesday opening in history at $62 million. In the world of high-stakes cinema, this divergence represents a masterclass in market segmentation. Critics measured the film against traditional literary structures, while the global audience valued it as a high-performance visual asset designed for sensory immersion. This tension did not hinder the film's financial trajectory. Instead, it solidified its status as a resilient product that thrived on its sheer mechanical scale and the raw, kinetic energy of Michael Bay's industrial-grade spectacle. From an awards perspective, the film's legacy forecast was primarily anchored in its technical dominance, receiving an Academy Award nomination for Best Sound Mixing at the 82nd Oscars. This nomination served as professional validation of the film's production integrity, highlighting the immense level of skill required to manage a complex mixing architecture across such a massive, data-driven sonic landscape. Paradoxically, the film also became a major winner at the Golden Raspberry Awards, taking home Worst Picture and Worst Director, a duality that makes it a unique case study in the popcorn-to-prestige ratio. It was the first IMAX release to win a Worst Picture Razzie, yet it simultaneously became the highest-grossing film to ever receive that dubious honor, proving that critical insolvency does not equate to a lack of commercial liquidity. The film's brand perception underwent a significant shift post-release, transitioning from a simple summer sequel into a cornerstone of a perpetual franchise that would eventually spawn a billion-dollar cinematic universe. This is a classic example of syndication value, where a single successful release builds an intellectual property foundation that supports decades of future revenue across sequels, spin-offs, and theme park attractions. Looking at the long-term valuation, Revenge of the Fallen has seen consistent performance data across home media, with over 11 million units sold in its first year alone, making it the top-selling film of 2009 in the United States. For a film built on the cutting edge of 2009 innovation, the visual effects produced by ILM have aged with a surprising level of grace, often outperforming modern productions in terms of texture, physical weight, and mechanical complexity. Every time a new viewer discovers the forest fight in high definition on a streaming platform, the film's reputation as a masterclass in visual engineering is reaffirmed, ensuring it remains a durable asset in the Paramount portfolio. As we reach the 15-year anniversary of its release in 2024 and 2025, we see a nostalgia recapitalization occurring, with Hasbro releasing special anniversary Studio Series figure multipacks to celebrate the film's milestone. These high-end collectibles, featuring characters like the Jetfire upgraded Optimus Prime, demonstrate the enduring collectability index of the film's robotic designs and their status as iconic cultural artifacts. The legacy of the film is also felt in the careers of its stakeholders. It solidified Michael Bay as the primary architect of the high RPM action genre and turned its leads into high-value creative assets within the global celebrity economy. Furthermore, the film